Mauritania, 1809. Well, 1809 is when we're going to be starting this naval wargame campaign. Here are the three main islands. Notice I've got the compass rose pointing to the north. The island of St. Denis. Oh, I'm sorry. This is the island of La Réunion, Mauritius. This is known as the Ile de Napoleon, the Ile de France. And then over here is Rodriguez, named after Bender J. I'm kidding. I think the robot was named after this island. The scale on this is one little bit. I don't even know. I printed this on my home computer. Let's see how close we got. We're going to use, look at that. 1 centimeter is 50 kilometers. And this is to scale. So you can see this is about 1.5, so 75 kilometers across by 50 kilometers across. And then this little guy, this little spit here is really only about 2 by 4 miles across. And then way up here is a collection of tiny little islands, just a little dusting of grass above the surface and some shoals. Those may be important later. I don't know. It's a campaign. Somebody may be able to scoot through there and escape from pursuit. We're not sure. Now, why did I choose the map to look like this? Yeah, we're still kind of doing campaign prep. We got a ways to go, people. But don't worry. We're going to get there. We're going to make some decisions and push some forces around the map. Heart of Oak. I've mentioned this before. Includes a campaign system. And see, here's this distance here. I'll show you guys. 2 centimeters, 100 kilometers. Oh, they're the same scale. Well, that's pretty cool. I may actually go ahead and blow this up onto 11 by 17. We mix imperial and metric because we're not afraid of math here in the House of Wargaming. This is the kind of Caribbean. And the reason I'm showing you this is that Heart of Oak has a tactical scale in which 1 meter equals 1 millimeter. So once you get your miniatures out, that's 10 meters. Each one of these little numbers here. So our 1 inch miniature on the table is, that's 2.5 centimeters, 25 millimeters is 25 meters long, or about 75 feet, right? That's the tactical battles on the tabletop. Then you have this grand tactical, when the vessels have sighted one another. And I love this because, and then, well, we'll go back. And then you have a strategic, which takes place on this. So what you can do is zoom in. You do your ship movement on this map. And when they get to close enough to see each other, and if it's in the ocean, open ocean, then your table will probably look something like this. But now your ships start a known distance and relative position from each other. And so you can do a grand tactical until you get down to that tactical. Really interesting. If this works, now I haven't played it yet, right? All the usual, disclaimers. We won't know until we try it. I think this game probably has the best scaling, zooming in and out, since Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. And it even has kind of a, look at this. This is how you move your forces, upwind and downwind, depending on whether you're a ship of the line or if you're a frigate. And if you are a hooker, average, or smart, not like, we're not talking about the harlot table here, hookers. Hookers are ships that have been out to sea too long, covered in barnacles, sailors a little tired, takes a little longer for them to move. Smart means they snap right along. Right, so I don't know if these ships are smart or what, but I did a thing here. And let me show you my notes for this campaign, all right? I've got a grand total so far of 1, 2, 3 pages of notes. I went through and I just pulled all the readily available sources of information off the internet. There isn't an actual campaign book. Hint, hint, if someone wants to, make some money for Wargames Vault, someone's a good writer. That wouldn't be me. That's kind of our reinforcement. So let's take a look here. This is really what it all boils down to. Here's where the rubber meets the road, or the rudder meets the water. 1809, a British force from Bombay has seized Rodriguez. That's this island right here, early in the year. Again, I don't even think there's a port here, to be honest with you. At least not at this time. It says Port Mathurin. Oh, Master and Commander reference, perhaps? I don't know. But there is a tiny little port here. Maybe one vessel can dock, but that's about it. It's really more of just a place to get food, water, and maybe a little bit of wood for your wood stoves. Make some repairs, drop off some wounded. So I'm starting in July of 1809. Remember, 1808 was a really good year for the French privateers. The French forces consist of the Venus, the Marche, the Caroline, and the Bellon. And then I have, those are 3 40 to 40 gun frigates. They also have 3 smaller vessels. We have the Revenant, captained by Surcouf, the greatest man. This guy, there should be a movie about this guy. One of the most dashing and daring French privateers around. Little 18-gun Revenant punched way above its weight. Then you've got the Niemen, a 38-gun vessel, and then I've got some notes on a historicity. The Niemen was intercepted in France. It was set out for here, couldn't get out of port. Will it show up in our campaign? Maybe. Stay tuned. And then we've got the Creole, which is a corvette. And again, I think the Revenant and the Creole probably going to start up in Bombay. So the first thing I want to do here, just to let you guys know, this corner up here, I'm going to write down Bombay. And down here, I am going to write down Cape Town. And this page right here, early 1809, is the distribution of forces at the start of our campaign, which are not fully determined yet, but we'll get there. By the end of the episode, we'll know exactly who is where, and we may even be able to chart out, chart out, the initial scenario for our campaign. We may do this kind of seasonal, early, mid, late. It depends on how things develop. We got to play it by ear, because I've never done this before. Well, I have, but I've never done it well. If things go well, we may make some adjustments. As I said, we've got the Venus, Marche, Caroline, Bellon, and then there is the Revenant, Niemen, and Creole. Well, that's the French side. Let's look at the British side of the ledger. They have the Raisonnable, which is a 64-gun ship, the HMS Leopard, a 50-gun ship, and then, from largest to smallest, they also have the Boatica, and I don't know how you pronounce that. Tell me down in the comments. We have, which is a 38-gun, 5th-rate ship. We have the Sirius, which is a 36-gun, and the Nereid, again, Nereidi, I don't know, it's a 32-gun ship. And then, just like the French, we get a couple little smaller vessels cruising around. We got a 16-gun sloop called the Otter. We've got a 20-gun corvette called the Victor, and then we have the HMS Ceylon, which is cruising Bombay. Now, this is interesting for an important reason. It's not going to start the game on the map for sure. It's going to start up in Bombay, and it was captured by, I think, Surcouf? I can't remember off the top of my head, but it was captured, sailed down here, and then recaptured by the British. So we have this kind of off-camera situation where the Otter, the Victor, the Revenant, the Niemen was intercepted in France. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. No, and then the Creole. So we got these 4, and then the Ceylon up here. So we got 5 ships up in Bombay that are kind of dueling and sparring off camera, and they may make appearances. Likewise with the Creole, the Niemen and what's this other one? And I think that's it. So the reason I bring this up is to point out that if for some reason the Niemen had managed to sneak out of France and sail down without being intercepted, which it probably could have, like the most dangerous times we're getting into and out of the port. Because remember, on a table like this, you can only see 6 millimeters across. This is all the farther your vessel can see on the table. I should probably make a template for this. Once you get out of port, like this area right here, this is the danger zone. This is the highway to the danger zone. Once you get out here, you can just set course and kind of zigzag. It's a lot easier. And so if you have seen the movie Master and Commander, if you haven't, pause this video, beat yourself over the head, go watch it, and then come back. I'm a little embarrassed you haven't seen it. But if you've seen it, you understand that when they're out on the ocean, bumping into that vessel, not gonna happen. The only reason they ever bumped into them was because they were near port. They were charting a path through, I think they actually chased them through, what's south of South America? The Roaring Forties, whatever, right? Or when they found the surprise, found the Acheron, and they just happened to bump into them in one of the few places where you could get fresh water, where the tortoises were. You know the movie. I don't need to belabor the point. So the point is, the Niemen, if they had managed to make it out of port. They ran that blockade. They had a nice fog roll in at the same time. They might have shown up here in Mauritius, which would have turned the tide, would have turned the tables, because instead of being 4v5, it would have been 5v5, right? Not only that, but the British have a real big problem because they've only got 5 ships and they have to block 1, 2, 3, 4 ports. How do you do that with 5 ships? If you just have one ship there, then when one of the French vessels comes in, remember, from the top of this mountain, you can see a full 100 kilometers, 60 miles. So you can signal these guys and say, hey, hang out for a bit, we're bringing reinforcements. So you can sail a ship out of the harbor, so now you're getting bushwhacked 2-1. Not good for the Brits. Of course, there are a whole lot of other if-thens that you can do to really change the character of your campaign and give it some replayability. One of the if-thens we're going to deal with is, we know exactly who, oh, whoopsie, that's not what I needed. I needed this page. We know exactly who the captains of these ships were. We know what they were like, how good they were. Like I said, we know Surcouf was the Revenant's captain and that he was just an absolute beast. There's a big statue of him in Mauritania, actually, which is part of it's, at least the La Réunion, I think that is under French control right now. I don't know. I'm an American. I don't worry about what happens in other countries. Caring about what the rest of the world thinks? Not for me, chief. All right, so here's the thing. I got a couple of notes here. Oh, and then I guess we can kind of, looking ahead, this is what I pulled off. The French return in late 1809. The Venus, the Manche, Bellon, Creole return with the HMS Victor. 3 named Portuguese, the Minerva. Oh, okay, so this is telling me that in late 1809, these ships are all going to start in the beginning of early 1809. So what we could do is we could actually have them trying to sneak out of port. In the case of the real world, of course, they got out before all those British ships showed up. In early 1810, I know the Astri and the Piemontes, a couple of more frigates are going to show up. The Piemontes is ahistorical. It never actually did. And then in early 1810, the British are going to get the HMS Magician, the Iphigenia, and the Leopard, which you may have heard of. And again, in April 1810, they're going to get, the British, that is, will get an additional 2,000 soldiers. In September, they will get the HMS African, which is a 40-gun frigate. And then the HMS Ceylon with Major General Abercrombie. Oh, this is the one that, what did I have written down here? It's cruising Bombay and then it got captured. That's what it was. Actually, they sent this guy, Major General Abercrombie, down on the Ceylon. He got captured and then had to spend some time in La Réunion. And when he was sailing over to Africa aboard a French vessel, that vessel got taken by the British. So the Major General came back. Uno reverse, campaign-wise. Pretty cool. In November, the British force arrives to end this now. So we basically have like 6 seasons that we can do. And then in February 1811, the French relief force arrives in 3 frigates. Right. So this is kind of my reinforcements and notes for what might happen later in the campaign. Of course, it may not, right? The French may beat the British here. Maybe maybe there's a scenario where those British reinforcements are intercepted and that vessel gets sunk with all hands. And now the British are going to have a much harder go of things trying to take these 2 islands. The other thing I'm going to do, and let me just write this down here. Like I said, we have a really good idea how good these captains were, but I'm going to say, well, what if some of these captains died of the plague? What if the captain of the Venus unsuccessfully charted his way through the dangerous political waters of the French Revolution and wound up getting his head whacked off? And a different captain was put. I'm not going to worry about the personalities of all these ships. What I will do is turn my attention to the Solo Wargaming Guide, Chapter 2, Sea Campaigns, where we have ratings. Die roll 1 through 6, with 1 being the worst and 6 being the best. And in this, I mean, this is it, man. Look how short this is. For sea-based campaigns, it's only like 4 pages. There's just not a lot there. But I do like that it tells you when the captain will strike his colors. And it does give us a rating for the captains, which may come into play when we turn our attention to a game like Blood, Bilge, and Iron Balls, which is by Alan Abbey. And it's kind of like Car Wars, the way it operates with these ship records. We've talked about this before. I've played a few games. Look on the thing. Look at this. Blood, Bilge, and Iron Balls This is a very alliterative, and it's by Alan Abbey. What is this? It's like a Marvel comic book, right? Henry Hyde writes "Shot, Steel, and Stone," and I have to read it because I always call it Stone, Steel, and Shot or Shot. I just always get them confused. Alliteration confuses me. I am but a humble math guy. Look, lots of alliteration. You love to see it, and then you even have fighting. Oh man, fighting sail. You should call it like fighting. I don't know. There's got to be a word that starts with F, right? Or what starts with S instead of fighting? What would that be? Like slapping sail? I don't know. That doesn't sound appropriate for a children's channel like this. Anyway, the point is, I'm gonna roll a d6 6 times. Oh, by the way, Surcouf, he is way too much of a bad bro, so he's gonna be 60. He does not strike. He will not strike colors until he loses 100% of his guys. But what about the Venus, Marche, Caroline, and Bellone? Well, the Venus has a 2. The Caroline has a 3. The Marche, Caroline, and Bellone has a 3. So our captains are a 3 out of 6, a 2, a 6, and a 3. And that may change the strategy that the Admiralty uses. And then, of course, the Niemann has a captain with a skill of 2 and a 1 for the Creole. And this might not work out so great for the French. They might be, and this may be the difference. The British, on the other hand, I'll roll down the line. 1 for the Raisonnable. Their big one is an incompetent. 1, 4, 5, and 3. So the Raisonnable might be big, but the captain doesn't have a lot of courage. He's going to strike at 40% casualties. And then the Boatica is going to be a 3. And the Otter and Victor will be a 5 and a 4. And the Ceylon, when it shows up, is going to be an unfortunate 1. So Boatica 3, 5, 4, and 1. So if we tally all those up, we get a total of 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. We get a total of 39 for these 8 ships. Did I get that right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, 39 for the 7 ships for an average captain's rate. Is that right? 39 for these 7 ships for an... Oh, divide by 7 of like 5 plus? On the other hand, for the British, we have a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 ships. And they have a total of 5, 10, 16, 21, 25, 26. So 26, 8 divided by 26 means their average captain rating is a 3. I must have added these wrong. 9, 12, 18, 20. Oh, this is 23, not 39. That's the problem. All right, you don't need to jump on the comments. So 23, they have an average of about 3.0, and the British have an average of about 3.0. So averages across the board, that's about what you'd expect. Nice even distribution, maybe a little bit on the low side for each of them. But what this does is it gives us a number that we can use for all of the action up in Bombay. We can put together a little matrix to decide who encounters who, and we can roll some dice and add the captain's rating and put together, maybe even do one of those little like step-by-step processes where we do some rounds. We do the, what was that thing called? The TARD, the like total all resolution dice, simple, I don't remember what it was, but where we rolled like D6s. We did like a souped up version of Risk for land battles. We could do that for these in Bombay. But we still haven't figured out where all of our ships are starting. So the next thing I want to do here is that. Where do all these guys begin? We start in July of 1809. And I think, then we can use the captains all cracking on. Who's the responsible ones, right? This is the captain's skill. And we can use this to decide who starts off where. This is also a measure of their elan in the case of the French, or their, what would the British version of elan be? Their stiff upper lipidness, something like that. Historically, all of these ships were able to get out of Mauritius before the British arrived. But that doesn't have to be the case. Alternatively, maybe they had some narrow escapes getting out. Did that happen? I don't know. I don't have a full detailed workup. A lot of what I've found is the histories of these are written where they'll talk about everything up to the end of 1809 and they say, and then these two ships meet. But first I have to talk about this other ship. So let's go back to the beginning. And then they were sailing and they met this ship. And it's the only reference I can find where that other ship was. Gets a little confusing. That's part of why I'm not going to worry about tracking things too closely. But what I will say is, in order to get to Bombay, in order to start the raiding season without a chance of being interrupted, we're going to roll a d6 and we're going to add the captain's rating. And on a 7 or higher, the ship makes it up to Bombay. That's where they start the campaign. Notice, this means that the Revenant and the Caroline automatically start up in Bombay. See, they're in blue because the French wore blue and the British wore redcoats. That means we have to roll. Does the Venus automatically start there? We need a 4. They do. So I'll write that down. The Venus is going to start in Bombay. The Marche needs a 5. And look at that. They also, so this might be a little more historical than I realized. The Bellon is going to roll a 7. So all these big ships are going to be there. And then we have the Niemann, which rolls a 6. So the Niemann and the Creole with a 5, they're going to start down here. I have 1, 2, 3, 4 ports where they might be found. I think Port Louis and Mahaburg, which is the Grand Port that I keep calling Port Royal for some reason. Those are the most likely. So I'm going to roll for where each of these ships starts, and it's going to be a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So first for the Niemann, and I got a 2, so it starts in St. Pierre, and the Creole is going to start in, so in other words, I'm going to write this down right here. The Niemann and Creole are going to start off down here. Now, there are a bunch of smaller, like coastal vessels. There's probably a bunch of sloops, gunboats, the usual kind of defensive ships that start down here. But for the British now, the question operates the same. Do any of these ships have a chance at intercepting one of these ships en route? And so we got to come up with a little mini game that operates the same way. Apparently, the Niemann and Creole have, you know what? The Niemann is out of the game. Because they didn't roll that 7 or higher, they got intercepted in France. They got captured. They'll be taken into the king's service. Some lucky and daring British captain is going to get a nice big fat prize money for that one. So that means the Creole is the only one. Niemann, sorry, buddy. Niemann, you're out of here. Okay. So we got to figure out what the deal is with these British ships. They arrive in, I guess we're starting in July 1809, so we'll say mid-1809. And the question is, does any of these guys have a chance at intercepting the Creole? And to figure that out, I'm going to roll, but this time I'm going to make it just a little bit harder for them because the Creole is in a small little ship. They are going to have to score a 9 in order to arrive in time. In fact, what I'm going to do is, and then of all those who arrive in time, I'm going to select one at random to see if they can intercept it. So, in other words, the Leopard, I need to roll a 5. And I roll a 6. So the Leopard has a chance. You're saying there's a chance. Let me just put a little check here so I don't forget. And then I need to roll a 4 for the Nereid to have a chance. And it does. Boy, I'm rolling pretty good on all of these. The Sirius needs a 6. That's going to be a no. The Boetica needs a 6. That's going to be a no. The Otter is going to need a 5. That's going to be a yes. And then the HMS Victor needs a 5. Oh, boy, a lot of yeses. A lot of chances. And then, like I said, we're going to go ahead and start the Ceylon historically. I got a lot of ships in the area, so the Ceylon is going to start off over here in Bombay. See, there we go, Ceylon. And then now we've got 4 ships that are on station. The Raisonnable and the Sirius and the Boetica will show up down here. In other words, they are going to come on table. And probably what we do is maybe we just start them all in Rodrigues. And I'll show you why here in a little bit. But before we do that, let's figure out which of these 1, 2, 3, 4. And this time, I'm going to roll 4 dice. I'm going to add the captain's skill. And whoever gets the highest result, they're the ones that are cruising in the area and have a chance at intercepting the Creole. So let me just roll an additional d6. And we're going to add a 4. So it's probably not going to be the leopard. We're going to add a 5. That's going to be a 10. The otter, no. And then a 1. So and this may be good and it may be bad. The Nereid, this is our big check right there. The Nereid is cruising in the area and it spots the Creole sneaking out of Mahabor, Port Royal. So I'm actually going to go ahead and write down the HMS Nereid, Nereide, right there. The Ceylon is up here, and then let's see who else is up in Bombay. They've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to put 2 more ships up there, and I think we'll call it, let's say the Raisonnable was late on station. The Ceylon is also late on station. So we're going to put the Victor up here. And then we have the Leopard, Sirius, and Boatica. So that means we've got several ships down here. Leopard, Sirius, and Boadice. That's how it's spelled anyway. I know it's Boatica. I pronounce it Boatica. I think that's the historic term. So that's only 5 ships. Who am I missing? Oh, and then the Raisonnable starts down here. The Reasonable. Well, that's a good name for a British ship, isn't it? Am I missing anybody? And then, oh yeah, the Ceylon also they had some supply issues. They ran into a squall that darn near capsized them, and they're going to be late coming on station. Now, why do I put those guys here? Because the other thing that we need to establish is, what is our patrol going to look like? So for now, we just need to do this little scenario right here, okay? When the ships first catch sight of each other. And the trick to this is that the Nereid is not visible to the defenders. If it was, the Creole would never sneak out. So the Nereid would have been patrolling somewhere up in this area right here when it catches sight of the Creole. We need to figure out like what the wind conditions are so we know what direction the Creole is moving, and we need to set up a situation where there's a chance that the Nereid catches them. All right. And so oddly enough, despite what I said earlier, I think we're going to start out on the grand tactical scale. But first, we're going to figure out what the wind conditions are. And man, I was thinking about this just before we started. I don't know whether we're starting in early, or I think I said July. Let me just change that right here. And I'm putting we're going to go through a lot of these pages, I hope. So July 1809, we have our first engagement between the Creole and the Nereid somewhere up here in the vast trackless sea. These ships are just setting out to begin their patrol. We're going to start blockading, and they're going to be kind of doing a figure 8. I may set one of them kind of doing this. I may set one of them just prowling like back and forth here, maybe doing a triangle. Because what we can do in August is send 1 or 2 of these ships back down through the gauntlet, and we can figure out what these patrolling lanes are like. We can set out where they are when, and using the old Tony Bath, Donald Featherstone, you could even do this on a clear piece of acetate, lay them down. Where do those cross? Do they cross at the same time? Or maybe we set, one guy just kind of circling this island, hoping somebody shows up, and one guy circling this island. Of course, I guess what I should probably do is put that little border around here that shows where visibility is. So the ships that are prowling are going to want to stay outside that border, and we may need to put some paths down. This is a great way to do naval campaigns. I don't need to worry about exactly where all of these ships are at every moment of the day. I just need to figure out, what does your patrolling pattern look like? And then I can figure out, when does the vessel of the blockade runners come on, and when do they actually have a chance, right? I don't care. I just need to know how long it is. I need to know how far they sail so that we can see if they bump into each other. In the meantime, I was saying, I'm going to learn a little something about the Earth here, because I need to research wind patterns in the southern tropics. I think it's maybe even subtropics in the Indian Ocean. The little tiny island I live on is about this big, maybe a little bit smaller. We have to worry about whether the winds are Kona winds or trade winds. Those, or the doldrums, and those kind of dictate what the weather is like. I don't know when July is. The wind primarily from the north, the south. we're going to call our little, well, they must be from the south because the blockade runner really wants to get away, right? They're not going to pick north winds where the only way to get out of Dodge is to sail towards Rodriguez or to get close enough that they can tack back and get away. And oh, by the way, the ship is going to have the weather gauge that's hunting them? I don't think so, Chief. We want to be running downhill while we try to get away from the Nereid, particularly because the Nereid is a lot bigger. Remember, the Creole is only a 24-gun corvette, and the Nereid is a 32-gun. Well, that's only like 8 guns difference. Fifth rate versus a corvette. Oh, I say it's 8 guns. If you're staring down the business end of them, there ain't nothing only about it, is there? Fortunately for me, Heart of Oak includes this wonderful little chart. In the westerlies, is that us? I don't think we're in the Northeast Trades. I know we're not in the Mediterranean. I think looking at these westerlies is probably the best we're going to be able to do. So we're going to roll this, and it's going to tell us what those wind directions are. And then you can roll a percentage chance. It's the summertime, so how strong are the winds? Well, that's what this little percentile is for. I am going to roll first for the... Oh, let me turn my little dice catcher. First for the direction, so they have set out when the winds are... The direction of the wind is northeast. Normally, when you talk about the wind direction, that's the direction it's coming from. But I got to check the rules. Let me just make a little note here. Northeast. Does that mean, like, on the American East Coast, those northeasterlies, those nor'easters, are hurricanes blowing in from Great Britain, from north and east. So I think the wind is coming in directly northeast. And how bad is the wind? Well, with a 64, we're going to be at a 4. Now, this, of course, is gale force. 1 is the doldrums, and 2 is just like light gusts that you're hoping to catch. So good, stiff, strong breeze out of the northeast. This might explain why the ships came home in the late fall. While the winds were out of the northeast, they could race through. Having gotten a late start, the Creole is going to be having to beat upwind the entire way up into Bombay. It's going to be a short season for them. Be that as it may, we are in a situation where the Creole is going to come out and they're going to race down here and they're going to tack up. And the Nereid, we got to figure out where these guys start. The Nereid is going to start somewhere around right here. And they must be patrolling. Remember, they do catch sight of each other. So what we're really looking for here is the relative speed and relative position of these ships. The Nereid, let's just say they're right about here. And remember that the Nereid, when it catches sight, all right, it can see, according to our chart, it can see 6 millimeters. So it's standing off just out of sight of land. And the Creole races down here. It makes that turn and it starts heading up in this direction. Now, they are still like perpendicular to the wind. They're still racing downwind just a little bit. But this is where the game is afoot. And the question is, what direction is the Nereid sailing in? And to determine that, I'm going to roll on that same chart, which I'm not going to stick in front of you because it's going to get really old if I keep doing that sort of things. So we're in the westerlies, and what direction is the Nereid sailing when it catches sight? With an 87, they are going to be moving east-southeast. So they actually are moving east-southeast in this direction, and they go, hey, there's a boat up there. Now they need to come about, and our turn length here is on a daily basis. So they're going to be able to adjust their sail direction any way they want. They're separated by 6 millimeters, and here's where the fact that you've got a tiny little corvette is probably going to be able to outrun this much bigger, stronger, tougher vessel. Because the corvette moves it. Oh, that's tournament rules. Where's my campaign rules, guys? A little further back. Flip to it. There we go. So here's our sighting distances, 6 and 16. The frigate, our big boy. Oh, I'm sorry. I got this wrong. Oh, okay. I'm going to use the relative sizes. It's the sail of the line. The Nereid is, of course, a 32-gun fifth rate. It's really a frigate. And so it's going to be able to move 43 versus a ship of the line. This is the first, second, and third, which moves 28. So I think both of these, I think a Corvette would be even faster than this, wouldn't it? Because they don't really give us that. Here we go. Type of ship. Look at this. So here we have sail and frigates. I guess both of these are frigates. They're moving at the same speed. And the difference is going to be that the smart Nereid is moving 72. Well, man, they're moving that many millimeters faster per day. They're absolutely going to be able to catch these guys. But the Nereid can only move 37 upwind as a smart vessel. And the frigate is still moving, and the Creole is moving downwind at 43. So what that means is on our first turn, and we'll have to shift at 43. This is where sailing just slightly downwind, the Creole is going to be moving like this, and with a little bit of delay on the part of the Nereid, they're going to have to move, let's call it 1 centimeter in this direction, and they can only move, because they're moving upwind, they can only move 37. So we'll call that 5, 10, and now they're in hot pursuit, but they started out, so they're only going to be able to move an additional 27. So they're going to wind up right here, and they're going to be behind by a full 16 centimeters when night falls. If both ships continue moving in this direction, so now we have to figure out, and this is where we do our callbacks to the solo wargaming guide. The question is, does the captain of, there's 3 possible headings here that the captain of the Creole could take. He could go this way, he could go straight up, or he could cut back towards Port Louis and try to make a run for safety. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. On the other hand, the Nereid has to anticipate, and he's got to worry about, am I going to go this way and cut him off? If he decides to duck back to St. Denis, we're going to call it, or he goes due north, or he cuts up this way into the wind. So there's our 2 possibilities. The Creole, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, is going to continue on his current heading. The Nereid is going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And he's going to cut in this direction. And because he's heading upwind, he is only going to be able to move, how far? Frigates, smart frigates, he's going to move 37, like whoop, to here. And as I said, because he's continuing to move downwind, this old boy is going to sail down like this. He's continuing to sail downwind, and as a downwind hooker, he's going to wind up right here at the end of the second day. And now you can see that they are separated after a day by a total of this. Each centimeter is 50 kilometers, remember. So 6.5, that's going to be 325 kilometers. There's no way they're catching each other. The only other thing we could do here is we could set, I guess we just continue the ride. But the point is, we did this. See, look, we had this fun little scenario where the Creole had a chance of being intercepted by the Nereid. And now you can see how hard it is to manage a blockade. And as a result of this, the Creole is going to escape to harry the shipping up here in Bombay. And what we'll do next time is figure out what all the results of the cat and mouse game are. We'll decide which of these ships encounters which of these 2 ships. We can run a brief little scenario. We can figure out which of these ships. And remember, because they're outnumbered 3-1, the French are going to be able to capture some East Indiamen. It's just a question of who, how many, and whether or not they can capture one of these British ships. Alternatively, maybe the British are able to capture the Boulogne and send it back down with the Ceylon. And so even though they lose 3, they get another vessel. Bear in mind, these 3 ships are still now down in Rodriguez. So what we can do is we'll figure out like exactly when do these ships come sailing in. We'll set up some patrol patterns for the Leopard, the series. These 2 are going to be on station. Wait, do I have the Ceylon twice? I do. Why do I have the Ceylon twice? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm missing one. My apologies to those of you who are yelling at me. We've got the Raisonnable down. Let me zoom out here. I've got the Raisonnable down here in Cape Town. I've got the Leopard. I've got the Sirius, the Neride, the Boatica, the Otter, and the Victor. So I'm sorry. This, I think the point is, I wrote this down wrong. The Ceylon is down, not down here. The Otter is down here. So let me write that down. And that is the end of July 1809. Now, August, like I said, will be this little ship duel. And then if somebody is really successful, they're going to wind up coming back down early. And we may have to set up our 5-ship patrol and send 1 or 2 blockade runners down. Or maybe we need to bring a couple of these down here. I don't know. It's a mystery. But I'm really looking forward to seeing how this plays out additionally. Moving forward. Any requests, hit me up. This is going to be a great one. And of course, we do have lots of guys down here in Rodriguez. There may be a chance that the French have an opportunity to try to retake Rodriguez. If they can get 3 or 4 ships out, maybe they can go shell the little port here and make it a lot less suitable for the British to use as a jumping off point. And that may buy them some time. Maybe if they can hold out until 1812, right? Something was going on in 1812. Maybe the French can maintain control of these whole islands the whole time, and it winds up meaning that Napoleon himself, old Little Britches, wins the war because of what we did down here, at least in our, not quite imaginations, our historical naval campaign. Turn 1, what a blast. Thanks for coming along for the ride with me. Till next time, I'm praying for you.